Nigeria, the giant of Africa, the cradle of black civilization, a land blessed with lush green vegetation and an abundance of resources. It is home to over 180 million hard-working and resilient people. Its economy is vibrant and robust, the largest on the continent. Like every other country, Nigeria has its fair share of challenges. Due to her huge population and rapidly expanding economy, the country's infrastructure is often overstretched and in most cases inadequate. A perfect example of this is the power sector. Despite the huge resources injected into the power sector by previous administrations, steady power supply became a sore point in the lives of Nigerians. This prompted most households and businesses to rely on self-generation. To find a lasting solution, the Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited (NDPHC) was set up in 2005 to fast-track infrastructural development in the power sector. Its core mandate was to manage the power projects under the National Integrated Power Project (NIPP) scheme, which is jointly owned by the three tiers of government. From inception, the Muhammadu Buhari administration declared power supply a priority. The president made his position known when he delivered his 2018 National Budget Proposal speech to the National Assembly in Abuja. The federal government hit the ground running with the constitution of a new board for the NDPHC, which is chaired by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. The federal government appointed Mr. Joseph Chiedu Ugbo as the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the company. To assist the NDPHC in attaining its mandate are Alhaji Babayo Shehu, the Executive Director of Finance and Administration, and Engineer Ifeoluwa Oyodele, who was also appointed as the Executive Director, Engineering and Technical Services.
The Niger Delta Power Holding Company is a company owned by the three tiers of governments of Nigeria. The federal, the state, and the local governments.
The projects were funded from funds that were released from the Federation account in 2005 and then later 2008, 2009 from the Federation account, which means it's a company that belongs to the whole Federation.
We're coming from what I will call a state of emergency in the power sector, where we were not generating enough, where we were not transmitting enough, and where we were not distributing enough. And this was the reason why the National Integrated Power Project was conceived.
Niger Delta Power Holding Company, and that is the purpose vehicle really for implementing the National Integrated Power Project, delivering power plants, 10 major power plants, distribution capacity to support the power plant. I think what we have done is to strengthen the capacity of NDPHC to fulfill its mandate.
Out of the 10 power plants in the NIPP portfolio, the NDPHC has successfully commissioned and connected 8 to the national grid. This was done along with associated gas transmission metering infrastructure projects to support commercial operations. Subject to the availability of gas, these power plants contribute over 22 million kilowatts of energy daily to the grid. Currently, the NDPHC has over 3,000 megawatts of generation capacity available for deployment. The power stations under the NDPHC include 1074 megawatts Aloji Power Generation Station in Abia State, 563 megawatts Calabar Power Generation Station in Cross River State, 338 megawatts Egbema Power Generation Station in Imo State, 225 megawatts Barian Power Generation Station in Bayelsa State, 434 megawatts Geregu 2 Power Generation Station in Kogi State, 451 megawatts Benin Power Generation Station in Edo State, 451 megawatts Ogorode Power Generation Station in Delta State, 750 megawatts Olorunshogo 2 Power Generation Station in Ogun State, 250 megawatts Omoko Power Generation Station in River State, and 500 megawatts of Motosho Phase 2 Power Generation Station in Ondo State.
Our power plants are mainly located in Nigeria that are close to gas sources, although we have one in the far southwest in Olorunshogo, and we'll have another one in north central in Geregu near Ajokuta. Those ones might not be in the gas fields, but they are located close to gas pipelines. So we have a lot of projects in generation. We have 10 power plants, 8 of them already on the grid, 2 are under construction. We have several distribution projects, several injection substations, 33 kV lines, 11 kV lines, transformers, CSP transformers. The one we call CSP transformers are those mounted on the post. They are completely self-protected transformers. As in distribution, we have several projects again in transmission substations, transformation substations with transformers, transmission switching stations.
In terms of what they've done, I think that what they are doing at the moment is to focus on the distribution side of the business, while they are also trying to complete power stations that are not yet operational, that haven't been completed.
I must say, with all due sense of modesty, that this organization has fulfilled that purpose to the admiration of all, even though a lot of people don't understand what we're doing. And because we're not like most other organizations that have direct interface with the citizens.
In the area of power transmission, the NDPHC has invested in critical transmission and distribution infrastructure needed to evacuate the electricity generated into the national grid and distributed to end users. This has been achieved through the expansion of 36 Transmission Company of Nigeria 330 kV to 132 kV substations across the country.
Before NDPHC, we have only one number 150, then one number 90. With their intervention, they were able to install one additional 150 MVA transformer.
Also remarkable is the completion of 2,194 kilometers of 330 kV transmission lines and 809 kilometers of 132 kV transmission lines by the NDPHC. This represents an increase of 46% and 13% respectively over the pre-NIPP status of grid infrastructure. A total of 10 new 330 132 kV substations and 7 new 132-33 kV substations have been completed, with several other existing substations significantly expanded.
We run an integrated structure, which means we cover from end to end. So from generation, including gas, up to distribution. And the whole purpose of it, our main core business here, that's where the major investment is in generation. But to ensure that Nigerians whose money has been spent on this generation enjoy this power. So we also invest massively in transmission, and in distribution.
Recently, the NDPHC commissioned two 15 MVA 33/11 kV injection substations in Amikonle and Abule Taylor areas of Alimosho local government area of Lagos as part of efforts to boost power supply in the commercial hub of the nation.
We thank God for this gift from the federal government. Before, we don't normally have light. For almost 6-7 months, the light was paralyzed.
We thank God for making it possible for us to see light after the new road, because before we have low currents every day.
In Abuja, Nigeria's capital, the NDPHC has successfully executed a number of power transmission projects, which include the already commissioned 220-kilometer-long 330 kV double-circuit lines, which provide alternative thermal power into the FCT from Gerugu through a new Lokoja substation. The new Gwagwalada substation has been connected into the existing TCN Katampe and Apo substations, along with several significant expansion works on existing substation developments coming this way. Others worthy of note include the 330 kV transmission backbone that provides several 330 kV double-circuit transmission lines which spur from power plant zones in Calabar, Aloji, Afam, and Ikotabasi into a switching hub at Ikotekpene. From this hub, long double-circuit lines emanate to flow power from these southern-based power generation centers to Jos and the northeast through Ugwaji, Makurdi, and terminals in Jos Plateau State.
The Ugwaji substation is one of the substations that have so far been delivered by NDPHC.
This station pulls power from Ekote Bene end and wheel out the power towards Makurdi, and that is RP transmission station 330. And equally two double circuit equally moves to New Haven transmission stations.
As regards the distribution of electricity, the Niger Delta Power Holding Company has constructed and commissioned over 350 injection substations with a combined capacity of 3,540 megawatts across the length and breadth of the country. Under the NIPP program, the capacity of 33/0.415 kV and 11/0.415 kV has been increased by 26%.
So in the past few months, we've focused more on distribution because we discovered as well that we have about 2,000 megawatts of stranded power now, which it is there, but Nigerians are not enjoying it. Why? Because distribution facilities are not good enough to pick the available load. I said that, which means they are not good enough to serve the end users. And since the advent of this President Buhari's administration, since the administration, who completed close to 70 distribution projects.
The Niger Delta Power Holding Company currently contributes about 30% of power requirement in the grid, despite the huge debt of over 160 billion naira owed it by the electricity market as at February 2018. In a bid to tackle the liquidity challenges of the NDPHC and other players, the Buhari administration introduced the Payment Assurance Guarantee Scheme in January 2016.
Government now realizing the fact that there is need to sustain power, there is need to come in and assist the generation companies, especially with the payment for gas, came up with the Payment Assurance Program, whereby the payment of 80% of the invoice that is generated by every GenCo, every generation company, is guaranteed and is paid.
Nigerians in the 6 geopolitical zones of the Federation are beginning to feel the impact of the huge investments made in power infrastructure by the NDPHC in the last 3 years. Going by the definition of the United Nations, any settlement with a population of over 500,000 is considered an urban community. Sandwiched between Lagos and Ogun states is Magboro, a community with a population of over 1 million people and qualifies to have attained the urban status. However, for over a decade, power supply in Magboro remained a mirage, with government losing so much in terms of accruable revenue and the citizens dreaming of what constant power supply looks like. NDPHC came to the rescue, intervening with the construction of a 33/11 kV distribution line taking power from Okearo, Ogun State into Magboro. Residents of Magboro, especially small business owners like Sahid, are indeed very pleased with the development.
My name is Afa Said. I do mechanic engineering. I live Magboro. Before, we NEPA no come. Na generator all of the person they use. But now, only the day we NEPA come, in they use the generator. If the large day, I know if you use the generator again. My name is Said. I'm living at Magboro. I'm doing electronics engineering at Magboro, yeah. I was here for a long time at Magboro, yeah. So although we are happy now, we are high life at Magboro now. We are using light now.
A 33 kV line was energized in Magboro to serve Mowe, Ibafo, and environs.
If you look at the Lagos axis, all the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway up to Redeem Camp, there are several communities there. Those communities, I mean, you could not imagine, they were out of power for more than 12 years. Electricity, grid-connected electricity.
We've been radiating the 33 kV feeder line over 26 kilometers down to this place. Now that 33 kV feeder is should we say, is an intervention at the end of the day, because you could see that there are so many communities that are being powered from that 33 kV feeder. You have the Gaon, which is a very large community. You have the Magboro community itself. You have the Okeafa community. You have the Ibafo community that has a lot of other subsets of communities. You have the Mowe.
Lafia, the capital of Nasarawa State, is another city in north-central Nigeria where power supply had become insufficient due to an increase in socio-economic activities and inadequate infrastructure. Because of this, residents of Lafia and indeed Nasarawa State have had to grapple with inadequate power supply and extremely low voltage. However, this will soon be a thing of the past, as the NDPHC has flagged off the construction of 330/132 kV 2x150 and 132/33 kV 2x60 MVA transmission substations in Lafia. These substations will not only improve power supply to Nasarawa State, but also backfeed the Federal Capital Territory whenever it is required in emergency cases. The Lafia transmission stations will also boost power supply to border communities of neighboring states such as Northern Benue State, Southeastern Kaduna State, as well as Southern Plateau State.
The fundamental reason for this project is to supply the city, Lafia, to improve power supply to Lafia. Because before now, Lafia has been served through a long, very long distribution line, 33 kV distribution line from Akwanga, which is just too long for any reasonable supply, adequate supply to the state.
This project is one of the biggest projects that is being embarked upon by the Nigeria Data Power Holding Company because of its size, 330, 132, 33 kilovolts.
This project we commenced almost 1 month ago because the approval process is just completed and we commenced foundation of this project.
Ngozi, like most residents of Lafia and its environs, can heave a sigh of relief.
There are some particular areas in Nasarawa State that you don't just expect light. That is just it. Not that there's no wires to it, but there is no light at all. Where I stay, most times I run diesel. I run my diesel and generator almost throughout the night because of how hot. Because Nasarawa State, mostly Lafia, is a very hot city.
The story is the same in Badagry, one of the most popular tourist destinations in the country. Like other residents and small business owners in Badagry, Sophia is excited about the ongoing project.
My name is Sophia Peter. I live in Badagry and I sell food. Most of the time when my customers come, they look for something cold. I mean cold water, cold bottled water and mineral. But most of the time we don't have it. Look at me, then I ran to a neighbor and got an empty freezer to freeze the pure water and mineral for them, but we don't used to get block. I'm going to benefit very greatly in this new light because I will be able to sell. Cold things make my market go fast.
I use the light to operate my business. So we'll be expecting this light over time. So I'm happy if this light is commissioned in due time, because it will attract more investors into Badagry, as it will boost the economy of Badagry. As in Badagry as a whole, it will improve our lives here.
Iná ní ìlú Badagry báyìí, ó ti pẹ́ tá ti ń rí iná, a kì í rí iná. Tá bá máa rí iná, ó lè jẹ́ wákàtí kan àbí wákàtí méjì la máa rí iná nílùú Badagry àti gbogbo àyíká ẹ̀, a kì í ní iná rárá. Ṣùgbọ́n a rí pé tí wọ́n bá ṣe iná yìí, gbogbo Badagry á bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí níná, tí gbogbo wa sì máa rí iná fi lò fún àwọn iṣẹ́ àti fún gbogbo àwọn nǹkan tí ó ń lo iná pátápátá.
Residents of Ugwaji community in Enugu State have enjoyed improved power supply since 2013. This is due to the 330 kV substation constructed and commissioned by NDPHC in the community.
We are enjoying it because some of women, artisan people who is doing their something to get their dairy bread, they use power on that. So for that, we are enjoying it.
Jude, a welder, is appreciative and contented with the state of power in Ugwaji.
My name is Obodo Jude. I'm from Enugu State. I'm from Ugwaji. I'm a confirmed welder and a professional welder. Now we dey get right well. We dey use right to work well. Before, the right is not like that.
Renewable energy is an area where the government under the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is determined to walk the talk. In January 2017, the then acting president Yemi Osinbajo launched the Solar Home Systems. The initiative is meant to cater for the over 70 million Nigerians in rural communities presently not connected to the national grid. The reality is that a lot of Nigerians still rely heavily on kerosene lamps, candles, and petrol-powered generators. These rudimentary lighting systems aren't cheap to maintain. Plus, they come with a lot of health and safety risks. The solar home system is the exact opposite. The project was kick-started by the NDPHC at Wuna, a village on the outskirts of the Federal Capital Territory.
What about those who are not connected to the grid? So His Excellency the President showed that concern when he entered the office, and through the Vice President, we started the presidential initiative to provide for the unserved communities, because they were never served before them. They don't have grid connection. So we started with the solar home system to ensure that at least they enjoy some measure of electricity, at least at night.
There is no doubt that the journey ahead is long. However, the NDPHC is determined more than ever before to cover the infrastructural deficit in the nation's power sector. Indeed, There is light at the end of the tunnel.